Peace, fam. I hope all is well. I hope your Tuesday, today's Tuesday. I hope your Tuesday evening or wherever you're at, whatever time of the day it is, I hope it's going well. Do me a favor, do me a solid, hit that like button again. Please hit that like button. Brother Awini Baba is on with us. He's in the back room waiting. But before we let him on, we have a couple of announcements. But announcement number one, well, really your price of admission. Hit that like button. Again, please hit the like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. Tours. We are rolling to Benin for the Voodoo Festival. I have 6 spots left. Again, I have 6 spots left for Benin for the Voodoo Festival. If you are interested in joining, please go to Donfo. That's Donfo, DANFO Africa. Again, please visit Donfo, DANFO Africa. Link is on the screen and is in the chat room. Go there. Please ask any questions that you might have. Please do not hesitate. Send me an email, hit me up, and I will respond back to you. Without further ado, Brother Weenie Baba.
Yeah, Danas, what's up?
What's up, man? It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. It's been a while.
All the way
Um,
from Ghana. I was just in Ghana like 3 weeks ago, like two and a half
really?
weeks ago. I was in Ghana. I was in Accra. I
Uh,
was only there for a day.
okay. I wasn't aware. I'm up north, so
Well, I know you. Yeah, you're
it's
up
quite
north.
a it's kind of a
Yeah. The
distance.
furthest,
I'm
the
closer to
furthest, the furthest north
yeah.
I've been to Ghana is Kumasi.
Oh, okay. You need to come up from
No, Tamal was it Tamal? Is that the city?
Tamale. Yeah, Tamale.
Mali, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm closer to Burkina Faso than I am to Accra.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Um,
Well,
so it's
I know Awa flies direct from Accra to Tamale. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
flight.
yeah, yeah. Africa World Airlines. There's
Right.
another airline called Passions. Um, they all run to Tamale and beyond. So yeah,
Yeah. So it's
definitely.
not. It's a flight.
Um,
It's a flight.
yeah, just a flight. Yeah, so definitely it is a worthy trip. You have been to Mali, you've been to Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
Up north, you get a mix. You kind of get a Senegalese Mali vibe
Mm-hmm.
because it's drier than in the south. But at this time, it's raining. It's in the rainy season, so the weather is pretty good. It's been raining virtually all day today.
Okay.
It's really cold now for
Okay.
us. Yeah,
Let's jump
um,
into it. The
yeah.
coups.
So how have y'all been? A lot has been going on with regards to the African continent, particularly in the Sahel. Very, I would say, interesting developments that have gone on, in the past probably a year or two. Um, Even, going all the way to Central African Republic, where the Wagner Group um, is very active. And
You can add Gabon now too.
yeah, well, Gabon is, from the look of things, it looks like a palace coup, but let's see how it develops because the one who, overthrew the president of Gabon, Ali Bongo, is a cousin of the president. And, well, it's not confirmed yet, but we saw him having meetings with the French ambassador. I don't know what that is about. So we are going to have to keep a close eye on Gabon. Um, it may just be France's own way of, playing ahead, knowing that this is going to have a domino effect. So they could go ahead and say, well, Ali Bongo is out of power now, but let's not forget they kept the Bongo family in power for about 55 years. Um, and in nearby Togo, the Nyasingbe family has been in power since the 1960s. I think. Um, so, and in Cameroon, Paul Biya has been in power for about 42 years now. So, when you see France praising a coup in Africa, you need to take a second look at that country and those who appear to be leading the coup. It may not be for the benefit of the citizens there. It may just be about changing a driver and creating the impression that there has been some sort of revolution. If you look at Burkina Faso, um, Mr. Damiba was in charge before Ibrahim Traore overthrew him. One military person overthrowing another military person for betraying the revolution. We might see that in Gabon, we might not, because from the look of things, um, this new guy seems to be cozying up to France, and that is not going to, translate into anything significantly positive as far as the lives of the Gabonese people and the people of Central Africa are concerned as a whole. We have seen some leadership, including Paul Kagame, Paul Biya, getting jittery and making some changes in their military leadership.
Hey, I was gonna get to that. So in Cameroon, I think Cameroon and in Rwanda,
Yeah,
they immediately
Cameroon,
fired. Yeah,
um,
immediately fired. Well, why
Rwanda,
is
I
that?
heard.
What's Kagame hiding? Why would he fire some of his military personnel? Winnie done froze up on us. Oh man, come on, Winnie. Not nah. That's that Ghanaian Wi-Fi. Guys, do me a favor. Hit the like button again, please. Hit that like button as you come to the chat room. Please share and please subscribe. Um, Yeah, we need them froze up on us. Listen, I'm gonna put the link in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to. Again, if you want to call in and add to the conversation, you are more than welcome to click on the link and call in. We have lost Owini. He's in the matrix. Like, look at his face. Hold on one second. Let me. No, 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 no. Hold on, do that. Hold on, do that. We lost him. Okay, he'll be back shortly. He'll be back shortly. Links in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to call in and add to the conversation. Link is in the chat. Once again, link is in the chat. Guys, we are already in September. We are already in September. It has gone by fast. It has gone by fast. We are in the fourth quarter. Here we go. Weenie's back now. Weenie, we lost you, but you're back. Can you hear me? When he froze up on us again. Links in the chat room. Please call in, add to the conversation. When you turn your camera off. Owini. Owini.
Yeah, is it from my end
I
or
was
yours?
say I was gonna say you might want to turn your camera off.
Okay, let me. Um,
Yeah. It might be better to turn your camera off because of
okay,
the connection.
all right.
All right.
How's it now?
All right. So
Yeah.
so what I
So,
was saying before we lost you,
just so
Owini,
you know, give
what is what is can you hear me? Can you hear me? Owini.
mhm.
Hello?
Yeah.
I was saying, what is Kugami hiding? Why did he start firing military personnel right after the coup that took place in Nigeria?
Who?
Kagami, why did he start firing military
Yeah.
personnel?
Well,
What is he hiding?
the obvious um, analysis that can be made from that is that leaders who have stayed in power for long are getting jittery and they're getting scared that their top military officials can turn on them and run a coup on them. So some leaders are re-looking at their military setup in order to insulate themselves from what appears to be um, a flood, similar to the Arab Spring that took place in Africa. Um, to the extent that um, certain leaders are taking these actions, it could be misplaced, but there is cause for concern as to what these long-serving leaders have been doing, mostly for over 30 to 40 years in power. And the youth are beginning to question what is it that they have achieved for their people and beginning to look at what the possibilities are in terms of getting them replaced through the gun if the ballot cannot do the trick.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and just to get a good understanding of this, French colonialism, just like any other European colonialism, um, has wreaked havoc in Africa for centuries. And around the 50s, when it became inevitable that African countries, English speaking and French speaking, including Portuguese speaking and so on, were agitating
Oh boy.
bitter spouses of not wanting to let go of Africa because of the cheap resources that it has been getting, strong armed the newly independent countries into a pact. Um, the post colonial French Africa Pact, where conditions or concessions had to be made by African leaders looking for political freedom, such as they would have to sign on to the CFA franc, which is controlled by the French Treasury. They would have to deposit a huge chunk. My reading tells me over 50%, 80% of their reserves in the French, treasuries, French banks, and that when they need money, their money for development, the French would then give them about 50% of what they deposited and charge them extra if they need more. They charge interest on their own money. Um, Countries like Guinea refused to sign this pact, and Guinea were made to pay the price because France literally destroyed all the economic infrastructure that it had built over there over the period that it occupied that country. But they had a lot of support from Ghana's president, or almost president Kwame Nkrumah, and he urged them on never to sign on to such deals. So it's not surprising that the uproar in former French colonies in West Africa started from Guinea with Mohamed Doumbouya and spread into Mali. These two countries, Mali, Guinea, and you can add Ghana, were the nucleus of the African Union. These were the first three countries: Guinea under Sekou Touré, Mali and what's his name, Modibo Keita, and Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah. This formed the nucleus for a federation, a unified Africa. And these were the three countries that joined forces together to say, look, brothers, come join us. The time is now. We need to unite now. We cannot afford to be divided. So come join us. Let's, pool our resources together, pull our markets together, have one army, have one currency, so that we'll be able to put up a better fight against neocolonialism. Because like I said in some of my previous videos, I am proud of Africa because a lot of our early leaders, presidents, they had good intentions for Africa. You can mention Patrice Lumumba, you can mention, Milka Cabral, you can mention, Chris Hani, Subukwe, Nkrumah, Sylvanus Olympius, and so on. They had good intentions, but they were defeated because we didn't have a unified policy. Trade wise, for instance, at that time, Ghana was farming cocoa. So if Ghana were to hike up its prices of cocoa and say, look, I'm not going to sell cocoa to you for cheap, they'll just go to Ivory Coast and buy that because we don't have a unified trade policy. But if we had that, whenever they go to Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, they'll say, well, you know, there's nothing we can do. We also sell at the same price. So this is going to force us to get better deals for our resources that are still in abundance. But one thing that most analysts have not concentrated on in this current, political wave that is going on in West Africa is that the USA and the French seem to be playing chess in West Africa because if you remember, there was a general who was being questioned. I don't know what the event was in the US, and it came out that a lot of these coup leaders, including Mahamadou Doumbouya and the Burkinabe, transitional president
Yeah, they were
Traore,
all they were all trained in the U.S.
by
by
the
the U.S.
US.
military.
Yeah.
Right. I know exactly. I remember. I
So
know exactly what you're talking about.
exactly. So France begins to raise concerns if the US is trying to take its place as a post-colonial power in West Africa, you know, and you could see that France went to China and began to talk like, well, we need to do business with China, and the US, really despised this and said, no, France, we were supposed to be together on this, and France goes back to the EU, and what follows is it goes on preaching that the EU needs to, consider its interests and do business with China, and we saw the likes of the Netherlands jumping onto that bandwagon and saying similar things. So it may be an opportunity for French West Africa and Africans in general to reset what these, post-colonial relations have been. But the catch is that we may just substitute one colonial power for the other. In particular, I think Africa has enough good negotiators who understand the geopolitics very well, and what they need to do is to use this opportunity to advocate for better deals. No
Mm,
country can remain isolated forever. It's very difficult to operate that way. I think it's time for the West, especially the US, to come in with better deals, fairer
mm,
deals. They're doing business with Canada. They're doing business with other countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and so on. Those guys over there seem to be getting better deals for their resources. So, what I think Africa needs to do is to relook at the political climate, the governance systems of these so-called newly liberated countries, and to strengthen those systems to be able to ensure that we don't just go on and put another corrupt official in power to continue with the oppression. I am happy that there are some changes going on, but what is the end game? What do we get from all this? What for instance, if you look at Burkina Faso, very charismatic leader, Ibrahim Traore and so on. What happens if Ibrahim Traore gets assassinated?
No, say that.
What are the systems? What are the systems to ensure that the programs that he's embarking on will be sustained in his absence? So this calls for a complete overhaul, in my view, of the current infrastructure. I was looking at the Swiss governance system that is, very decentralized. There's no emphasis on just one person leading the country, but rather a group of leaders that have to come to consensus on key issues. Like it or not, maybe the Chinese system, which seems to be working well for the Chinese, because what Africa needs, more than anything, is not just coup d'etats or revolutions. What we need is to have a completely different setup on how we are going to sustain the growth that we want. How do you ensure that 10 years from now, these programs continue in earnest and nobody will be allowed to derail them? The approach that seems to be taken by people like Chari and Assimi Goita is the hardcore way, military. How do you sustain all these military, infrastructure? How do you, for instance, ensure that maybe you begin to produce your own weapons? Because if push comes to shove, most countries are going to hold on to their weapons to protect themselves. So
Right.
if you're looking at buying from everybody else and they don't give you enough, you're stuck in the sand. So most importantly, what I am considering or looking at is my proposal is this: Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea should immediately come together and form one country. There is some history to those areas existing under single rulership. Um, Bambara or Mande is a common language in a huge part of that area. There seems to be uniformity in terms of religion, because most of them are Muslim. They would be better off forming a confederate of four strong countries.
Mm.
They can access the sea through Guinea.
Hmm.
If you look at the maps, they don't need to come through Ghana because Ghana is now hostile to these countries because of the stance of ECOWAS and Tinubu
Right.
and others. So, if these countries are going to achieve something, what I would suggest is they need to form a confederacy immediately and have the pre existing countries as states in the confederacy. And the hope is that if the other countries don't follow the same path, other French speaking countries, at least they something would trigger them to see the growth and the improvement in the conditions of the people of this new confederacy, to
Right.
begin to question their leaders as to what can be done to improve their situation as well. I am particularly happy with Mali because it has taken this up a notch. It's
Hmm.
even said, look, we're going to speak our local language here, and probably in the near future we're going to drop French. We may not drop it for good, but we're going to relegate it to just another international language that you
Right.
can learn. But we're going to put Manding, that's the mother language, the front seat. They may want to situate that into the African policy for Kiswahili to be adopted. These countries may as well take the lead to adopt Kiswahili in addition to their respective languages and build on that. It's a good opportunity for language experts to work with these countries to develop new curriculum. Let's throw all the post-colonial syllabus. A lot of the stuff that we're learning in school is useless. Um, we're entering the fifth industrial revolution. We need new skill sets. More than ever, we need technology. We need to develop our technology. Happy countries like Russia and China can be put on the spot to say, well, you said we could work with you. How do we collaborate to train our guys, for instance, to so the government could finance them to mine our gold and add value to our gold and have some of the largest gold reserves in the world, you know, and be able
Right.
to trade, sell that gold and make our lives better. There's enough gold in those countries. Just one mineral, for instance. Um, some people will tell you, well, everything about the state is corrupt and so on, but that's not the case with China. A lot of the construction that these Chinese firms are doing in Africa, They're run by Chinese state firms. What is it that the Chinese are doing that we can learn from?
Mm.
I think that the idea that we follow the Western model of neoliberalism that says that, well, it doesn't matter if Dynas is in America and he has access to a bank loan, for instance, to do business in Ghana. Well, when you come, you, Dynas, and Awini, you're on the same playing field. Nobody's going to help you. That doesn't seem to be fair.
Right.
But what China does is it trains its people and gives them the backing, the financial resources, all the resources they need in order to develop and implement what they learned in the West. That's what's the game changer. If you, I don't want to digress, but if you take Ghana for instance, we've had oil for the first oil find for well over maybe 14 to 15 years now.
Wow.
These oil companies need, and our government needed to have put that on the table and say, look, you're going to train, we want a certain percentage of your staff to be trained in petrochemical engineering. And we need them to work with you and learn the skills from you. And when that happens, now that we found another oil block in the Volta region of Ghana, in the eastern corridor of Ghana, which is, I suspect, one of the reasons why those people over there were pushing to succeed from Ghana. Why don't we make a new deal with this one? Why don't we get better deals instead of our leaders selling us short and having, according to what certain people are saying, personal shares in these companies when the
Mm.
countries have very little? Why don't we partner with these Eastern countries, including Russia and so on, to bridge that gap, which is the technology gap? And we have the brains, we have the people. All they need is support and they need continuity. Because if you send a bunch of people over to Burkina Faso to go train, and by the time they're done, the government is overthrown, what's the point?
Right.
So for me, um, I'm for playing both sides because I want to be reasonable as an African. You don't want to be boxed in where you don't have choices. What we need is for the West and America to eat the humble pie and admit that the post colonial arrangement where these Western countries used to suck resources out of Africa for cheap is over. Why? Because we have better partners now. China is offering us something better. So if you want to compete with China in Africa, you got to do better. Let's see what you bring on the table. And then we can talk, about technology transfer, about what percentage is the country getting. If you look at Zimbabwe, if they didn't have these sanctions, they would be doing really well right now because
Mm.
most of their resource deals end up giving Zimbabwe at least 50% of the proceeds from that. And they're working with the Chinese and all these Russians and so on, learning the technology. Now, if the government will put the resources behind these newly trained guys, at a point in time, we can say, well, we don't need you, China. We don't need you, America. We're gonna, dig up our own gold, process our own gold. If you want to buy it, that's fine. If you don't, we're gonna hold on to it. But we know they're gonna buy it because gold is becoming a very important resource with the signal of the weakening of the dollar on the horizon. You know, so what I think, and I don't want to prolong this because I want us to do a series of talks like this on very pertinent issues. It's been a while, I know, but a lot is going on the continent, and I am particularly hopeful, just as I've been. And I predicted that as the resources that the West had dry up, and as China and other world players become more competitive in Africa, there's going to be a shift. And one of my professors used to tell me, if you have a bunch of cattle in a corral and you introduce new cattle, there's going to be some shifting in there for the new cattle to settle in. That new cattle is, China, Russia, BRICS, and all these partners coming here. We know They are trying to also project their interests, but Africans definitely should take advantage of this and present our interests. And if the US, countries like Germany, I mean, there's some very, very good people I know in the US. I don't believe this blanket saying that, Americans are bad and all that. No, it's just the policies need to be looked at. I know some very, very good American people out there. And I know a lot of them agree that, look, this is not sustainable. We got to change things. So bring a new deal on the table. I think that the African American community can lead this charge. What I think the African American community should be doing, which is the missing plug in this, is, for instance, you dynast over there, get in touch with O'Shea, which I've been seeing in Uganda a lot.
Mhm.
Get in touch with all these brothers. Form a business team. Go around America to especially black business guys, billionaires, millionaires. Come to a consensus. Look, we gotta invest in gold. In, for instance, Burkina Faso, they need the investment. They're struggling right now with all the sanctions. Nothing stops you from going in there to say, look, we're gonna liaise between you and, I don't care what the company is, but we're gonna get you better deals, whether from the east or the west. You're gonna get a better deal. We're gonna make some money off of this because no businessman is gonna go into business for charity. We're gonna be upfront with you. We're gonna make some money off of this, but you're gonna make some money also. And to top it off, you're going to learn some critical skills in order, because you have several mines all over the continent. You're going to have to get the financial muscle to have the machinery and the technology to drill these resources. So that's where we come in as your brothers and sisters, your prodigal sons and daughters. We're coming home and we're coming with investments. We may not have all the money that is needed, but we're going to act as that critical link. It opened up. We're going to act as that critical link to bridge the gap between the drying resource investments, foreign direct investments in these newly liberated countries, and the investor community. The investor community wants to make money. They just want to know what the deal is, you know? And y'all in America can do this. You can pick just one commodity and say, look, we're going to partner with the Burkinabe government to have a company where we own part of it together with our partners, and this is the deal. There's no catch. It's all legit. You get this much. You get trained this much, and at the end of the day, we're all happy. I mean, these countries need that seriously right now. You've been to Mali. You know how these places are. I
Right.
mean, I'm not trying to knock Mali, but Ghana is way ahead of Mali in a lot of respects, right?
Right.
And so this critical link for infrastructure development, for resource exploitation, and so on, that's where you guys come in. And it's a fair deal. You can make money off of this. I don't care if the company is American, European, or whatever, as long as the deals are for real and there's no underhand business and there's no sabotaging of the government, there's no political agenda behind all these things. Why not? You know? So I just wanted to put that out there. The African American community, in my view, needs to, really rise up to the occasion.
Mm.
You guys have money, you have a lot of rich people, create this company, pick a particular commodity, go meet these presidents. They want to meet you. Nobody is pulling a string there, nobody is pulling their strings now. This is the right time. The issue of continuity, yes, you can have clauses in there that try to see how you can deal with the business in case of anything. But you can do short term, for instance, deals that deliver quick results and build on from there. So I mean, give it a thought.
Yes, sir. Real quick, let me ask you a quick question. Well, first, let me read the super chat. Nigeria High Court is going to officially announce the election result tomorrow. Do you think Tinubu will be removed? I don't think so. I don't
I
think.
don't think so either.
Yeah, he's not going to be removed. And then Owini, Speaking of Tinubu, ECOWAS has threatened to put boots on the ground in Nigeria if they don't, I guess, give
Yeah,
power back to
to
the
Bazoum.
former president. What are your thoughts on that? Then I'm gonna pass it to V.
Yeah, well, it's not a different approach. Um, if you compare that to what happened to Yahya Jammeh um, and a couple of other presidents, I think that ECOWAS, hmm, they're getting it wrong. Because if you look at the previous coup d'etats in Mali and Guinea, Mali, and Burkina Faso, these coup d'etats had popular support of the people. The people want these changes. So if you want to overthrow the military junta, for whom are you doing these things? Are you doing it for the Nigerians, or you're doing it for protecting democracy? So my view is that it's a wrong approach. Dialogue should be the best way to go. I think the Guinean people have made a decision. It needs to be respected. And if you look at the hypocrisy of ECOWAS, for instance, in neighboring Ivory Coast, Alassane Ouattara changed the constitution to run a third term. Nobody raised any eyebrows. Nobody threatened to invade that country. But that's a coup d'etat right there. You don't change the constitution after your term runs out for to go for two terms and run for a third term. Why has ECOWAS been quiet on this? Why is ECOWAS quiet on Nasimbe Yadima staying in and his family staying in power for well over 40 years? Why have they been quiet about the Cameroonian president staying in power for over 40 years? Is this the democracy that they envision for the subcontinent? So if this continues, and if you look at Senegal, there's something brewing right there, where the president is also poised to change the constitution to run a
No,
third
no,
term.
he backed down. He's not going to. He's not going to run for a third term.
Well, you have to see how it develops. You can't rule out anything because people are saying that he's imprisoning political opponents and so on and so forth. Let's see
He
what
did do.
happens.
He did do that.
Yeah, Sonko, what's his name? So let's see, why are all these presidents quiet about these things, changing the constitutions in order to keep yourself in power in perpetuity. So they shouldn't be selective about, what is a coup d'etat. Anybody that suppresses the will of the people to stay in power has effectively undertaken a coup d'etat, especially when the people don't want them. If the people want them, why not? If they're working for the people, why not? But you can't, selectively say, well, Niger is, you know, going against the grain, it's anti this and anti that. But the people of Niger, over 50,000 of them in one day signed up to defend their country, just a matter of hours. When the military opened it up and said, sign on, defend your country, over 50,000 within the space of a few hours. What does that tell you about the popularity of these military leaders? So my take is that ECOWAS need to, sit back and relook at what it is they're doing and understand that you cannot impose anybody on the people in any country. And if they continue that way, the ECOWAS is going to become dysfunctional because as more countries in the ECOWAS region break off from the French colonial yoke, they're going to team up with these, other countries, like Niger, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Mali. They're going to team up with them, and effectively, the sanctions are not going to be very effective anymore because they can just trade with each other. If they need access to the ports, for instance, it may be a longer journey, but they can go through, Guinea. The Chinese, if they have a good deal, they can have good rail systems stretching from Niger, even Chad, all the way into Guinea, and so on. So ECOWAS needs to tread cautiously with how it's going about this.
Let me bring V back on. Go ahead, V.
Hi, diners. Good evening.
Good evening. How are
I'm
you?
sorry, where I am is late. And good evening to my brother Winnie. As if say he's speaking from Tamale.
Yes, please.
I win the Uti.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Oh, well done. Sorry, Diners, we're selling you here. I'm just saying, anyway, maybe I will call her there.
Oh, the guy ever call and so tall has saying to him, what I need a cool and say.
Oh,
I
okay. Oh,
I
it's
must
more
say,
yes, you need. I
I
mean,
want to
maybe I was through her Europe or into no. And we are
I
that
want
so.
to say,
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So far, so good. Sorry, Diners, we sold you out a little bit there. I know
yeah,
my brother is on, so I have to speak. I have to go local.
yeah. It's good to
Mm,
talk to you, B. And see, a chair, baby, come on.
no problem.
Well,
And regarding what is happening in Africa, say West Africa in particular, it's a tragedy. But what you have to look at is you have to go back into history.
mm-hmm,
Most of these political problems were orchestrated by the Europeans, or
mm-hmm,
also with the help of some of our own, particularly the elite, the
mm-hmm,
political elite,
mm-hmm,
and often, I'll say maybe the rich elite. And I'm talking about this group of people that we've mentioned. They've been in power for so long. The Bongos, the Beer, maybe not so much Kagame, and Al-Hassan, who's next door to Ghana. They're there basically because the French wants them there. Al-Hassan is the Frenchman for Africa currently. He's speaking everywhere that comes out of that man's mouth is coming from France.
mm-hmm.
He was the one that when they had when Nana came into power, I mean, they were going to force to bring in the eco
Equal, yeah.
currency. Yeah. After they worked and had series of negotiations, they went to
Mm-hmm,
Abuja. And because Nigeria was always hesitant, but Nana did so much because you need Nigeria on board. You cannot exclude doing anything and exclude Nigeria. It just won't work. So he persuaded Buhari. They had a really fantastic meeting and everything was discussed, thrashed out. As soon as that man, I don't know, even when he got into the plane, even if he hit Abidjan before he hit Paris, because they have a meeting. Within a few days, the man was standing at the Elysee Palace with Macron, shaking hands, giving
mm-hmm.
speeches about how they're going to what were they going to do? They're going to what was the term they use? I forgot. Because
Uh,
the old
mhm.
attach it to the euro,
Well,
instead of
Oh,
hmm,
the echo.
the echo, the currency I'm talking about,
Yeah, the
what
echo.
Al-Hassan Watala did. It was a big betrayal of your own people. This is a currency that West Africa badly need. If we get that currency, it will push our economy. It will make West Africa with the amount of resources, it will make West Africa a pretty dangerous place. So, and not dangerous in a sense, dangerous to them, not dangerous for us, it will be good for us. But this man, when I don't know, because they had a meeting, I don't remember the exact day. But within a few days, less than a week, the man was standing at Paris, having, Jojo, shaking hands and giving a press conference, saying
yeah.
that they're going to attach it to the euro, which vexed the Nigerians. They said, no, why should they? Why should
Mm-hmm,
we, as an African, doing something and one man? So he put a scalper in the work, and that sort of cool things. Now they've gone back to 2000 and they're given a few more years that they said is going to bring it back in. And I hope they really stand up and bring it in
mm-hmm.
because it will help our economy. But at the moment, you cannot trade. The French West Africans, they come and buy a lot of stuff from us because they say that our currency is a bit lower than theirs. But if they're bringing certain goods that maybe they can bring, it's expensive to bring it to Ghana, apart from the food stuff that they bring, like
Yeah.
onions and
Mm-hmm.
and tomatoes and perishables, I should say. They don't tend to bring any more things than that because it's expensive, because their currency have more value than us. Vice versa with Nigeria. Nigeria brings their naira. It's expensive in Ghana, and Nigeria could trade with Ghana and so many other stuff, and it's hindering our economy, it's hindering the progress of the people, and yet you have one man stood there, and that's the reason why he changed the constitution, because French gave him go ahead. There's French army station in his country. There was the French that when they had a disputed elections, they killed so many people. That fight was short but so nasty. So many people died. There were rebel. Well, his army were called rebel army. He had a faction of the army, and there was another faction of the army supporting Gbagbo and defending Gbagbo. And what they did was the French gave them air power, bombing the palace, bombing everybody, and the amount of people that died within that short time. And then he disputed an election to come into power. People don't know whether he won as he claimed he won or not, but he got into power. Your constitution said 2 years, and then you change it. And now he's going for another term. He will. So sometimes, if you look at these leaders, whose interests are they working? So I support those young men, Ibrahim, Asena, and I don't know about the Gabon guy, but today I saw a news clip where he was meeting the Central African Republic president, and Central African Republic president he doesn't like the French, so I don't know, maybe we have to give the guy time to see what is happening. I don't know what is happening in Guinea, because that guy is a bit hot. I mean, people saying a lot about how he came into power and so forth. But we need guys, strong young men like these guys, to come in and take control. Because these old people, this ECOWAS is full of old people, excuse me to say, who have had their day. They have had their life. They have achieved whatever it is. Most of them, I mean, look at Tinubu. Why does Tinubu want to be a president? I don't understand. You were a very good Lagos governor. People give you that. And by hook or crook, you want to be president. And you're sitting there the other day claiming that, he's under so much pressure. Who's pressuring him? France. France will not let go of his control over these countries without a massive, strong resistance from us. And everybody should bear that in mind. And we shouldn't just say it's the Francophones, because if you look at it, for instance, if you go to Accra, you see a lot of people begging on the streets. You know where they're coming from? They're coming from Mali, Burkina, and so forth, because things are so tough for them. I mean, apparently, if you do a comparison of say poverty ratios and so forth, just compare Ghana to Burkina, for instance. We are similar people with similar kind of we do similar stuff anyway, but yet our poverty rate in Ghana apparently is under 15%, and Burkina is around 30%. And if you go, the same similar statistics run through all the French so-called, I hate that term, but I'll use it for the sake of an argument, Francophone countries. All of them. Look at Gabon. Gabon is a small, I didn't know their population was that small. And they have a huge landmass. Never mind the resources. Yeah. And look at them, apparently about 30% again are living in poverty. Why? A few elite, this is what we call the elite capture. A few elites are living the life of Raleigh. This man, the Ali Bongo, invited a footballer, apparently his name is Messi or something, just to come and, help him in Ghana, we call it cut sword, where they're going to put up a building and they have a ceremony about it. And he invited him. He paid him $4 million just to come into his country for a short time to help him cut sword for a project that he was doing. How corrupt and nasty can you be? So if we ourselves in Africa, and as I said, Mark, I keep saying to our brothers and sisters abroad as well, don't think this is an African issue. It is all our issue. It's all our issue because as an African black person, wherever you traveled, anywhere you go in this world, you are seen as a black person. Doesn't matter whether you're from America or whatever, until maybe you speak or show your passport, then they might give you, and even that is not even guaranteed. We are sort of respected anywhere. Everywhere we go, there's going to be somebody finding an issue with us, even when we're minding our own business. So the only continent that is really safe for us to be there is Africa. And if we do not make the concerted effort and fight to get what belongs to us, there'll be forever people coming in. I mean, they're talking about the Chinese, the Russian. What's the Russians doing there? What are the Russians going to do? I don't know. You bring them in, another one, somebody said to me the other day, they're bringing them in now. At the end of the day, when you don't need them to go away, that's going to be another issue, because they come in, then to come and taste. I know for a long time, going back in history again, the Russians actually did help a lot of countries when they were fighting for independence. Even Ghana, they came in to help Nkrumah at some point. When Nkrumah made his intentions clear, what he wanted to do, he wanted Africa. I mean, he even started an alliance with Guinea, and I think Guinea and Mali. They were going to form some sort of because when the French left Guinea, we all know what they did to them. They mounted a concerted campaign to destroy that country. They destroy infrastructures, hospitals. You build these things with Guineans' money. But because of independence, they destroy hospitals. They destroy even apparently the tarmac at the airport. They put dynamite on it and blasted it and created craters on it. They destroy schools. They went so far. Some of the buildings they pour concrete into the pipes and the sewage system. That's how petty and cruel this country is, And on top of that, the man refused to join the CFA franc. So what they then did to him was he obviously has to get his own currency. So when he did that, the France went and printed counterfeit of his money. So he sort of destroyed that. They destroyed that currency. That is when Nkrumah went in to help. Nkrumah went in there to help because otherwise that country was just going to go straight on its knees. And then they decided to form some sort of alliance. About it was going to be like Mali, Guinea, and Ghana at the beginning. To some trade, monetary system. And that was why they became so, that was one of the reasons why they wanted to get rid of Nkrumah anyway. And obviously they managed to do that with the help of our own people again. So Africans, if we think, oh, this is from that tribe, this is from this place, that's from that country, that is why they get us. I always believe that divided we fall, united we stand. That's why they got Nkrumah, they got rid of Nkrumah, and he wasn't the only one, because there were so many people that immediately post colonization, when they won their independence, or those who were fighting for it, they had the same mentality as Nkrumah. They managed to get rid of, they kill Frank. I mean, I've been told that France have assassinated more African presidents than even the CIA. Can you believe that, Dinus? France.
Yeah. Well, USA. Yeah. Well, I don't know. America, USA.
Africa. I'm talking about. I'm not talking about other parts, because what happened.
I believe you.
I'm talking about Africa.
I believe you.
Yeah, I'm talking. I mean, there was one president in one of these countries. I don't know whether it's Burundi or Central African Republic. The France Secret Service actually put a bomb in a plane, and the man's plane blew up. And now they're blaming Russia for putting a bomb in somebody else's plane or whatever happened. I don't know. These are the kind of things they've done to us, and they've been consistent. Their whole aims to keep Africa weak. French countries cannot even go, up until recently, they could not even go to any other places to get arms or buy arms. They have to go through France. Everything that they have on their land, they have to give French the first refusal. And even if France said, I don't want it, and this country say, for instance, China coming in, France could say to them, no, we don't want China coming in to do that. And then if you have a president that Walata has, Alassa or whatever his name is, he will say, okay. And then they will, you know, this is the kind of meddling, nasty stuff they've done to us all these years. And are we still going to sit there for them to continue? Are we? We shouldn't really. This is the time for every African to stand up and fight for what is yours. It is not theirs. You know, they have fed off us enough. They have plundered us enough. They started with taking our people. Of course, you said, oh, Africans were, but how many Africans were involved, really? Apart from the same elite again, and a few misguided kings that they thought, I don't know what benefit that they thought they were getting that got involved. The vast majority of African people were not involved. They were at the risk of being raided and kidnapped and taken into slavery. But every time you say, oh, Africans, no, not all Africans. The elite, some elites were involved. Some kings were involved. And this is what they do. They come in, they see a chink of weakness, and then they will go through there, widen it up, and then it become an old. And that is why even brought about so many tribal wars among us, because it got to a point that we didn't trust each other. 1 minute, you see this group were fighting with that one, and they've captured their people. Oh, and then they're taking them to go and exchange for arms or whatever it is they're going to exchange them for. So the other tribe will say, this is what these people are doing to us. So that slave trading thing, that the enslaving of the people that they came to do, that even made the tribal wars worse. It made us very distrustful of each other. Because I come from a royal household, so they tend to give you a lot of oral history. And the oral history, they will tell you that there was a time that we were, for instance, collaborating more. Of course, we had battles, but it wasn't as bad as until they got there. You know, I mean, for instance, have you heard about the Asante Serengeti Wars? The Asante Serengeti Wars, that was Asante fighting with the British. It wasn't done by just the Asantes alone. The Asantes got a lot of support from the northern part of Ghana, all the way to Burkina. They even go as far as, you know, people from all of our kings from all of our race warriors for the Ashantis to join in to fight with the Ashantis. You know, so this idea that, oh, we hate each other and I don't like this person, we need to put that away and learn to cooperate. Because if we stay divided, as we will always be at their mercy, because they're very, very good at their game. Give them that. The whole of Europe knew what France was doing to Africa. They did say nothing. And yet today I listened to the European president, the EU president, Ursula von something. She was in Kenya now saying that, oh, we want to work with Africa. We want to cooperate with Africa. We don't just want to come to Africa for just our resources only and stuff like that. I wish I could send a recording to you, Dennis. I'll try and see if I can send it to you. You know, I think I sent it to somebody when I heard. I said she was like coming there, singing sweet song to African leaders, and they're all sitting there looking at her, clapping. I say, look at you people. The reason why they are there, because they know they're on the back foot. That's why they're there. They don't care about us. So if we do not go in with our eyes open and deal with them in that way, and forever listen to their sweet talk, they're telling Africa, France holds every year at least about 500 billion of that useless money they print all these West African countries. They print the money and exchange it for their goods, for their diamond, for uranium or whatever it is. They print the money, you know. France print the money and they just bring it in and they take their goods and then they exchange it that way with them, right? And France was the other day telling Burkina that, oh, there's 20 million euro that they're supposed to give to them this year or something, they're not going to give it to them. And the young guys say, all right, that's it. If you're not giving it to us, we've been taking so-called aid from you people, done nothing to us, so keep it. France apparently doesn't give aid. It's their own people, it's their own money. When they're keeping their monetary system for these countries, they allow them to take 30% of their money, and the other 20, up until recently, they allow them to take another 20% again. The 50% has to be kept in France. Now they've sort of adjourned it to the euro now, so I don't know how it works there. And that 20% they take, they have to pay interest on it. Their own money. Now, how can any decent human being call themselves African to sit there and let these people do this? They pay interest on it. So France, per se, has not been given any aid to Africa. It's Africans' own money that he's giving to them. It's their own money. You know, Dennis, if I carry on, I will ramble all day. I'm telling you, these people, what they've done to us.
We're gonna close out, but we could definitely do a part 2 tomorrow. I'm just trying to keep
you know, I don't want to rush you or anything, but I'm just saying that Africans need to open our eyes, you know, and look at the nitty-gritty of the details of what is going on. You know, they are not coming in for our benefit. They've never done that. I mean, Ghana, for instance, right? I'll tell you a story that my father told me years ago. He said when the British were there, they built 2 railway lines. Guess where railway lines were going? They were all going to where they were doing serious mining. One was going to Krade, where they were doing mining manganese or something like that and cutting back. And then another one too was going to Tema, where they were taking our resources. That's the railway line they built for us. And those places, so it takes the railway line takes straight from the mine or straight from wherever the bushes where they're cutting the timbers and other stuff and straight to the port. That is all they built. And they complain, at least China is helping many African countries to build proper railway lines where it's benefiting the people greatly. Nigeria, for instance, during the Second World War, I'm sure the Nigerians don't even teach their own children that during the Second World War, do you know Nigeria was feeding Europe? Nigeria, that they're rubbishing it and telling them that this, that, they were feeding Europe. Nigeria was sending grain. What were they sending again? Grain. I think they were sending about 3 products to Europe, but I know one was grain, corn and rice, and some sort of, apart from the, yes, Nigeria was feeding Europe. Nigeria, that they rubbish like that during the Second World War. Things were so bad. Even Algeria were taking in refugees from Europe during the Second World War. And now they have the nerve to complain about other people coming into their country as refugees. Dinus, if you say we try again, we can
roll again. Send me an email. We can always come back on tomorrow. I'm trying to keep the shows to an hour. Yeah.
There's a lot if you want to discuss Africa, you need to try and get some of your guys that are really in depth to come in and educate people. People need to be educated seriously about what is happening in Africa. It is obscene, the level of plundering. I could go on about Congo. I don't listen to news about Congo anymore because every time I hear it, I'm crying. I'm so saddened in me. I feel so sad. So I refuse to. I've learned so much about Congo. What has gone there? What is going on? Even a few days ago, you know, their own troops killed about 20 people because they were protesting about the United Nations being there. And the United Nations has been in that country for God knows how long. And still the atrocities are getting worse. All right, Dennis. Let me leave.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, Dennis Mir, search for who. Peace. For Haka, thank you for the super chat. And Awini, thank you so much for joining us.
Cool, you're welcome.
Thank you, Awini. We speak.